Colonel Stan-Labo, he's talking about funding and, equipment, etc. Let me ask you about the conduct of security forces. You heard Dr. Ezekwesili talk about, who should be leading, this fight when we talk about, security, etc. And we know that it has been an issue between Amnesty International and the Army, Amnesty International, SARS, police, the way they act, the way they conduct their affairs. How would you say you see the conduct of security forces in this fight? You often hear the story that, you are in a theater of war, and so what happens at war has happened. But how would you gauge the conduct of security forces as one who has been in that position?
Thanks so much, Ijoma. Frankly speaking, to start with, let me just say this. Every country gets the type of security it deserves. Why am I saying this? If you don't invest in your security, don't expect some magic. After 9/11, nearly every Western country and Middle East country tripled their expenditure in intelligence. We've not gotten there yet. Just a slight attempt to bring in $1 billion to see us get these aircraft from the US, the Alpha Embraer aircraft, generated so much noise, Well, all the same, coming back to what the question you asked me. To a greater extent, I must tell you this, Joma, the conduct of the operations in the Northeast has gone on within certain laid down rules, which I want to refer to as rules of engagement, code of conduct for the troops, and so on. Fine, Amnesty International has been able to observe certain anomalies bordering on default on human rights and so on. Fine. They're a human rights body, they could see such things and it's within their ambit to blow them up. But the point I really want to make realistically here is that, look, if you've been there, if you've participated in what's ongoing, there is no how you can carry out an operation like this without you having defaults in that area in one or two places here and there.
In fact, what they were talking about in terms of SARS, they say there can be no reform if they don't end torture, unlawful detention, extortion, extrajudicial killing, and other serious human rights violations. So, I mean, even the talk of reforming SARS, except we deal with that, which obviously is still going on, we've not started.
Yeah, of course, I agree with you. Plans are on, or already the talk in terms of reforming SARS is ongoing and so on. But I think we should have far-reaching reforms as far as SARS is concerned. Okay, but I was thinking that we should talk more about the Northeast situation.
What you were saying is in effect, what is called collateral damage.
Yeah.
That's where I was coming to. There are times when you find collateral damages that are unavoidable. For instance, let's take a situation where a pilot goes on bombing areas that actually he thought were enemy forces. But here he is, his bombs were dropping on civilians, IDPs, women, children, and of course, your code of conduct tells you to protect
those people.
Thank you. These are collateral damages. The guy has been giving his grid references and so on, but at the time he was getting there, enemy forces had left, and IDPs had probably moved in there. These are collateral damages.
Let me put you on.
Organizations like Amnesty.
Sorry, hold on.
Organizations like
Amnesty.
Amnesty.
Colonel, hold on, please.
Yes,
hold on. What Mrs. Ezekwesili, Mr. Alobi, and yourself have talked about, in large part, is on all the three levels, a failure of intelligence. The reason why the girls were taken away, the reason why Mr. Alobi says the police is being brought down to his knees, the reason why SARS is unreformable or is being reformed or so on, all boils back to the issue of advanced information. And that also has its own bearing on the larger security situation in the country. What was referred to earlier as saying, if you don't know what's going to happen, how do you prevent it? Now that comes to you because you used to work in an agency
in the Northeast
whose sole responsibility is to do that. And that's the DSS. Of course, you have seen the agency has moved on to other roles in addition to that. But that's not the subject of today's discussion. We're now talking about the Northeast. In the Northeast, everyone who has talked about it talks about the failure of intelligence, that there's an absence of intelligence.
And they're looking for more extra information, which they're not getting from
and they want this information from the civilians.
Well, I think we're actually we're getting it wrong.
Okay.
You see, we need to understand how intelligence works. No man is an island. An intelligence officer cannot obtain information without, making use of all his intelligence assets, which also includes the people in those communities. So it is important that the people must trust you enough to be willing to give information. They need to know which side you are on. And if you look at the beginning of this problem, you see, Boko Haram started very well. They started by trying to portray themselves as a socialist organization that is trying to take care of the people. So they have support of the downtrodden that see them or saw them then as good people. There was a time they went to rob in Katsina or so. They were throwing money to people. So you see, there are communities where they were providing protections for those communities. Those communities were giving them food crops and the rest to support them. Now, for you to be able to break into such society is going to be very difficult. You see, these agencies lost a lot of people at the initial stage of this crisis because it was the same people in the community that were giving out the intelligence officers out, or they are the one pointing to those that are providing information to government. So those are the assets that you need to use to be able to develop a robust intelligence that can help the military. And then we shouldn't also forget that we had this interagency rivalry at that time. So inability to be able to define whose role.
Has that stopped?
It has to a large extent. A lot. It has. The level of synergy now is greatly appreciated. You see, you need to understand the fact that the people we are talking about are also from particular families, and they have colleagues, and you want to send new people there, knowing fully well that they've lost some other people when their own life cannot also be guaranteed. So, it creates a big challenge to those organizations too, to be able to develop capability within their own organization, because the moment you lose an intelligence asset, for you to be able to put another one there, it requires a lot. It's not something you just wake up in the day to say you want to put up there. And then when you say intelligence, it's not only the DSS that is responsible for intelligence production.
We know you are not the only ones, but
the intelligence
arm
of the military as well. And then the aspect of the police, even though has entirely been destroyed. And that is why, for me, the state police is just the way out. If you really want to start building something from that angle, and it's also speaking to the questions of SARS. We need to go back into that, because the way it is, the intelligence arms of the police is no more there, but it's supposed to. It's something that had been there in the past, because I remember when I was in the service, we used to have the CIB guys that are already ingrained in the communities as well. In fact, they go about pretending to be DSS people, and they are performing very well, honestly speaking, but you don't see those things anymore. But see, that is the reality of the nation, of the country that we are in today, and then we need to appreciate the problem we have and how we need to solve it. Now, I try to approach issues
one of the reasons I'm asking